The enormous conference chamber of the Galactic Confederation hummed with anxious voices. Beings from 17 peaceful species looked at the large display showing a distress signal. The signal came from Tellus 9, a small farming colony far away. Admiral Tejo stood at the back of the room with the other humans. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes took in everything. The aliens talked and talked about rules and risks. They wanted to be careful, very careful. "We need to form a committee to study this problem," said Representative Minsu. His blue tentacles moved slowly as he spoke. "We must understand the danger before we act." Tahoe stepped forward. "The colony may not have that much time. The Human Emergency Response Fleet can be ready in 36 hours. The room went quiet. All eyes turned to the human. Representative Juwu tilted her crystal-like head. "You would risk your ships and crew for strangers, for beings you've never met." "Yes," said Captain Hayuri, moving to stand beside Tahoe. Her voice was firm. "That's what humans do. We help those in danger. Your species is known for being emotional," Juwu said carefully. "Perhaps this mission is not right for such angry beings." The humans in the room exchanged glances. They had heard this many times before. The peaceful species of the Confederation feared human emotions, especially anger. They did not understand it. "With respect," said Tayo, "sometimes anger is exactly what's needed when lives are at risk." The alien representatives looked uncomfortable. They had only known humans for 5 years. In that time, they had studied Earth's violent history with concern. Wars, conflicts, fighting. These things were rare among Confederation species. They saw humans as dangerous and unpredictable. "Admiral Tayo," said the head of the council, an old being named Hansu, "we appreciate your offer, but we must follow proper steps. First, we will send scouts to." A new message appeared on the display. The colony's signal was getting weaker, more desperate. "They're dying while we talk," said Hayuri. She did not raise her voice, but everyone heard her clearly. Hansu sighed. "The Confederation has maintained peace for 2,000 years by being careful and thoughtful. And how many colonies have been lost in that time?" asked Tao. Silence filled the room again. The truth was uncomfortable. The Confederation's peaceful ways had a cost. Small, distant colonies sometimes disappeared. The official records called these unfortunate incidents, too far away to help in time. Captain Hayuri stepped closer to the council table. "You invited humans to join your Confederation because we're different, because we can do things you find difficult. Let us help now." The council members looked at each other. They communicated silently, in the way of their species. Finally, Hansu spoke. "Very well. We will permit a joint mission. 3 Confederation observer ships will accompany your rescue fleet." Tahoe nodded. "Thank you." As the humans left to prepare their ships, Representative Juwu approached Captain Hayuri. "I do not understand," she said quietly. "Why risk yourselves? The colony has no humans. They are not your people." Hayuri looked at the alien. How could she explain? "They sent a call for help. That's enough for us. Because of anger. This is what confuses us most about humans. You seem so angry, all the time." "Not anger," Hayuri said. "Compassion. Determination. A belief that all beings deserve protection." Juwu's crystalline form caught the light as she tilted her head again. "But your history is full of violence." "Yes," agreed Hayuri. "We've made terrible mistakes. We've hurt each other. But we've learned from that past. The same fire that once led us to fight each other now drives us to protect others." Juwu seemed to consider this. "I will be on one of the observer ships. Perhaps I will understand better by watching humans in action." 2 days later, the ships left the Confederation station. 3 sleek alien vessels moved smoothly and carefully. 5 human ships, rougher and clearly built for combat as well as rescue, moved with purpose. On the bridge of the flagship Dauntless, Captain Hayuri looked at the stars ahead. They had a long journey to reach Tellus 9. She hoped they would arrive in time. "Captain," said her first officer, Commander Junot, "the Confederation ships are asking us to slow down. They say we're exceeding the recommended safe speed for this sector." Hayuri almost smiled. The Confederation had much to learn about humans and emergency response. "Tell them we'll see them at the colony," she said, "and signal our fleet to increase speed." As the stars streaked by outside, the human ships raced toward danger while the aliens followed cautiously behind. The so-called angry humans were coming to the rescue, whether the galaxy understood them or not. The journey to Tellus 9 would take 8 days. On the second day, the 3 Confederation observer ships finally caught up with the human rescue fleet. Representative Sungmin requested permission to board the human flagship Dauntless to observe their operations. Captain Hayuri agreed. Sungmin had never been on a human ship before. As he walked through the corridors, he noticed many differences from Confederation vessels. The Dauntless was not as clean or organized. The lighting was brighter. The air smelled different. And the humans, they moved quickly, talked loudly, and touched each other often. "Welcome to the Dauntless," said Captain Hayuri, greeting him at the bridge. "I hope you'll find your stay with us educational." "Thank you for allowing me to observe," Sungmin replied politely. His translator device changed his musical tones into human speech. "I am curious about human emergency protocols." Before Hayuri could answer, shouting erupted across the bridge. Sungmin jumped in surprise. "That approach vector is completely wrong." Lieutenant Ji-hoon was standing at the tactical station, his face red as he pointed at a display. "We'd be exposed to any weapons fire from that angle. And your alternative leaves the civilian transports vulnerable." Engineer Do-yeon shouted back. "We need to protect them first." Sungmin moved closer to Captain Hayuri. "Should you stop this conflict?" he whispered, concerned. Hayuri looked confused. "What conflict?" "Your officers are angry with each other," Sungmin explained. "On Confederation ships, such behavior would require immediate intervention." Hayuri smiled. "They're just discussing options. This is normal." "Normal?" Sungmin watched as the argument continued, voices rising. He was sure they would start fighting soon. Instead, Commander Junho joined them. "Both plans have problems," Junho said. "Let's combine them." Ji-hoon's defensive position with Do-yeon's shield configuration. The 2 officers looked at the new plan. They nodded. Then, to Sungmin's amazement, they smiled at each other. "That works," said Ji-hoon. "Good call," added Do-yeon. Later that day, Sungmin sat in the ship's dining area. He watched as Ji-hoon and Do-yeon ate together, laughing about something. This made no sense to him. "May I join you?" Captain Hayuri asked, carrying a tray of food. "Please do," said Sungmin. "I have many questions." "I thought you might." Hayuri sat down. "You seem confused by our ways. Earlier today, those 2 officers were shouting at each other. Now they eat together like close friends. I don't understand." Hayuri looked over at the 2 officers. Humans can disagree strongly without becoming enemies. In fact, good arguments often make our plans better. "In the Confederation, we avoid all conflict," explained Sungmin. "We seek perfect harmony." "That sounds peaceful," said Hayuri. "But how do you test ideas? How do you find the best solution quickly?" "We consider all perspectives equally and find consensus. It takes time, but prevents negative emotions." Hayuri nodded. "Different approaches. But in an emergency, time matters. Sometimes passion helps us think faster." Before Sungmin could respond, an alert sounded. The ship's speakers announced a surprise drill. All around them, humans jumped up and ran to their stations. Their movements were fast but organized. "Come with me," Hayuri said, leading Sungmin back to the bridge. For the next hour, Sungmin watched as the human crew responded to a simulated attack. They were loud. They moved quickly. Sometimes they argued, but they worked together with impressive efficiency. When the drill ended, Hayuri turned to Sungmin. This is why we train hard. When real danger comes, we need to react quickly. Your methods are different from ours, Sungmin admitted, but effective. That night, Sungmin sent a message to the Confederation Council. Humans approach problems differently than we do, he wrote. What we see as dangerous emotions may be their strength. On the 5th day of their journey, an actual emergency occurred. A small meteoroid hit one of the Confederation ships, damaging its life support system. Before the Confederation vessels could finish their safety assessments, the Dauntless had already sent a repair team. Sungmin watched from a viewport as human engineers in spacesuits worked quickly to fix the damage. They took risks that Confederation engineers would never take, moving without safety tethers at times to reach difficult areas faster. They could die doing that, Sungmin said to Commander Chono, who stood beside him. Yes, agreed Chono, but they choose to take that risk to save others. When the repairs were finished, the Confederation ship's captain sent a formal message of thanks. Captain Hyeri invited them to join the human crew for a meal. During the dinner, Sungmin noticed how the Confederation visitors gradually became more comfortable with the humans. They still flinched when voices were raised, but they began to understand that human anger was not what they had thought. As they neared Telos 9, Sungmin approached Captain Hyeri one last time. I think I understand better now, he said. What we call anger in humans is often something else. Passion, determination, even care. Hyeri nodded. Anger can be destructive. We know that better than anyone, but the energy behind it can also protect and save. I will share this with the Confederation, said Sungmin. Perhaps we have misunderstood humans all this time. A warning light flashed on the bridge. They were approaching Telos 9, and the sensors had detected something ahead. Battle stations, ordered Captain Hyeri, her voice calm but firm. We have company. The human fleet formed a protective line between the harvesters and what remained of the colony. 3 human ships had been badly damaged, but they still fought. The Dauntless had taken heavy fire, but Captain Hyeri kept her ship in the most dangerous position, directly facing the largest harvester. Hull breach on Deck 4, reported Lieutenant Ji-hoon. Emergency shield holding, but not for long. Commander Chono looked at the tactical display. The colonists are still evacuating. We need 10 more minutes. Then we give them 10 minutes, said Captain Hyeri. Her face was calm despite the chaos around her. Representative Sungmin held on to his station as the ship shook from another hit. He had never been in battle before. None of his species had for over 500 years. The fear was overwhelming, but he forced himself to watch the humans. They were afraid too. He could see it in their eyes, but they kept working. Their hands moved quickly over controls. They called out reports in clear voices. When someone fell, others helped them up. Captain, said Communications Officer Jisoo, the Confederation ships are moving. They're coming closer. Everyone on the bridge looked at the display. The 3 sleek alien ships had maintained a safe distance until now, but they were indeed moving forward. They're deploying shield extensions, said Ji-hoon with surprise. They're helping protect our damaged flank. Hyeri nodded. Thank them for the support. Then she turned to Sungmin. Your people are braver than they know. On the planet below, Dr. Minji and her medical team worked in the ruins of the colony's main building. They had set up a field hospital and were treating injured colonists. The small blue-skinned Talisians were peaceful farmers who had no defenses against the harvesters. Keep pressure on that wound, Minji instructed a young human medic. Their blood clots differently than ours. A loud crash sounded nearby. Part of the ceiling had collapsed, revealing the sky above. Through the opening, they could see the battle in space. Flashes of light as human ships fired on the harvesters. Doctor, called another medic. Sensors show movement in the east section. Could be survivors. Minji grabbed her medical kit. I'll go. Keep working here. She ran through the damaged hallways, following her scanner. The building was unstable, with creaking sounds all around her. When she reached the east section, she saw why the scanner had detected movement. A small Talisian child was trapped under fallen debris, still alive but badly hurt. But that wasn't all. Through a broken wall, Minji could see harvester drones moving toward the building. If they reached this section, they would find the child. She touched her communicator. "This is Dr. Minji. I need backup at the east section. Harvester drones approaching. I found a child victim." "No teams available, Doctor," came the reply. "Everyone is engaged. Retreat to the main area immediately." Minji looked at the child, then at the approaching drones. She made her decision quickly. "Negative. I'm not leaving the patient." She moved to the child and began checking for injuries. The little Talisian looked up at her with large, frightened eyes. "It's okay," Minji said softly. "I'm here to help you." From his observation position with the ground security team, Sungmin watched through electronic binoculars as the human doctor worked in the open, exposed area. The harvester drones were getting closer. "We must help her," he said to the human security officer beside him. "Teams are all engaged," the officer replied. "We've called for backup, but it will take time." Sungmin stood up. "Then I will go." The officer looked surprised. "Sir, you're an observer. You're not trained for combat." "Neither is the doctor," said Sungmin, "but she is helping anyway." Before the officer could stop him, Sungmin ran toward the building. He had never done anything like this before. His species avoided all danger, but seeing the humans risk everything for strangers had changed something inside him. In space, the battle reached a critical point. The largest harvester ship had targeted the Dauntless with its main weapon. "Brace for impact," called Commander Chono. The hit was devastating. The bridge lights flickered. Smoke filled the air. Several crew members were thrown from their stations. "Status report," ordered Captain Hayuri, pulling herself back to her feet. "Main power at 30%, reported Engineer Doyan. Weapons at minimal capacity." The communications panel lit up. It was a transmission from the harvester ship. "You fight with unusual strength for beings not of this colony," said a cold, mechanical voice. "Why waste your resources for aliens?" Captain Hayuri straightened her uniform and faced the screen. Her voice was clear and strong despite the smoke and chaos around her. "We're not angry because we enjoy fighting. We're angry because you are hurting innocent beings. That's something humans will never tolerate, no matter who the victims are." There was a pause. Then the harvester ship began to move, turning its weapons away from the Dauntless and toward the other human vessels. "They're targeting the medical transport," shouted June. "Divert all remaining power to forward shields," ordered Hayuri. "Put us between them and the transport." The Dauntless moved with the last of its strength, placing itself directly in the line of fire. But before the harvester could fire, something unexpected happened. All three Confederation ships moved forward at once. They formed a protective barrier around the damaged human vessels. "Harvester vessels," came a new voice over the communication system. It was Representative Juwu from the Lid Confederation ship. "The Galactic Confederation demands your immediate withdrawal from this colony." The harvesters hesitated. They had not expected the peaceful Confederation to take direct action. On the planet below, Sungmin reached Dr. Minji just as the harvester drones arrived. Together, they shielded the child as security teams finally reached their position. The tide of the battle had turned, not through force alone, but through unexpected alliance. 3 days after the battle, the skies above Tellus 9 were quiet. The harvester ships were gone. The colony had lost many people, but thanks to the human fleet and the Confederation's help, hundreds of Talisians had survived. In the makeshift field hospital, Dr. Minji checked on her youngest patient. The small Talisian child she had rescued was getting better. His blue skin had regained its healthy glow, and his large eyes followed her movements with curiosity. "You're healing well," Minji said, smiling as she adjusted the medical scanner. "Another few days, and you can join the others." The child reached out a thin, four-fingered hand and touched her arm gently. He couldn't speak her language, but his meaning was clear. "Thank you." Outside the hospital, Captain Hyeri met with the Confederation leadership. High Counselor Yumbo had arrived with more ships to help the colony. He was an old, respected leader whose species lived for hundreds of years. That night, humans and aliens shared a meal together. The differences between them seemed smaller now. Representative Juwu sat with Dr. Minji, asking her about human medicine. Engineer Doyun taught Confederation scientists about human shield technology while learning about their advanced navigation systems. Captain Hyeri found a quiet moment with High Counselor Yumbo. "What will happen now?" she asked. "Will things change?" "Change has already begun," replied Yumbo. "For 2,000 years, the Confederation has observed the galaxy but rarely intervened. Perhaps that was a mistake." "And what about humans?" asked Hyeri. "Do you still think we're too angry?" Yumho considered this. "I think your species has much to teach us about courage and decisive action. And perhaps we have things to teach you as well. Balance, patience, diplomatic solutions, a good partnership," agreed Hyeri. 6 months later, a new class of ships patrolled the outer colonies. They were neither purely human nor Confederation in design, but something new. Their crews were mixed, human tactical officers working alongside Confederation diplomats and scientists. When new distress calls echoed across space, they were answered by these united teams. The galaxy began to learn that peace sometimes required protectors, and that the so-called angry humans and the peaceful Confederation, working together, were a force that even harvesters feared. Throughout the galaxy, small colonies slept more peacefully, knowing that if danger came, help would answer their call. The sleek research vessel glided silently through space, its crystalline hull shimmering under distant starlight. Aboard the ship, Nari moved gracefully across the observation deck, her pale blue skin giving off a soft glow in the dimmed interior. As a member of the luminary species, known throughout the galaxy for their peaceful ways, she felt proud to lead this exploration mission. "Lead researcher Nari, we've completed our scan of the third planet," said Kyo, her crewmate, his antenna twitching with excitement. "It shows signs of civilization, but no evidence of space travel technology." Nari nodded, her large eyes blinking slowly as she studied the blue-green world on the view screen. "Prepare the standard first contact protocols. We must approach with." A violent shudder cut through the ship, throwing Nari against the wall. Red emergency lights flashed as the ship's computer announced, "Warning. Drax vessel detected. Hostile boarding imminent." Fear rippled through the crew. The Drax were infamous raiders who captured other species as slaves. The peaceful luminary had no weapons or defenses beyond their diplomatic skills, useless against the ruthless Drax. "Everyone to the escape pods," shouted Captain Ta, his voice steady despite the chaos. Nari ran through corridors filled with panicked crewmates. Explosions rocked the ship as Drax soldiers breached the hull. Their tall, armored forms moved with frightening speed, capturing her friends with stun weapons. Nari barely reached an escape pod, diving inside as plasma fire scorched the wall behind her. The pod ejected automatically, but warning lights immediately flashed on the control panel. The guidance system had failed. Nari watched helplessly as the pod plummeted toward the blue planet below. The crushing force of entry into the atmosphere was the last thing she remembered before blackness took her. When Nari woke, pain filled her body. She lay in a smoking crater amid twisted metal fragments of her pod. Her blue blood left glowing trails on her skin as she dragged herself from the wreckage. Strange tall green plants surrounded her, nothing like the vegetation she knew from other worlds. Then she heard them coming. Heavy footsteps crushing plants. Loud, harsh voices calling to each other. Humans. Nari's hearts beat faster. Every luminary child learned about humans. Primitive creatures with a history of violence. They'd fought wars among themselves. They ate the flesh of other animals. The galaxy knew them as bloodthirsty beings who solved problems with force instead of words. 3 humans appeared at the edge of the crater, carrying metal objects that Neri recognized as weapons. She tried to retreat but collapsed from her injuries. "Hey, it's okay," said one human with long dark hair. "We're not going to hurt you." Neri couldn't understand the words, only that she was injured, alone, and at the mercy of the most feared species in the galaxy. The humans approached slowly. One, wearing white clothes, knelt beside her. This human had gentle hands that examined Neri's wounds without causing more pain. Another human spoke into a small device, while the third kept watch around them. "Jin, we need to move her. That crash will bring others," said the tallest human, scanning the forest with alert eyes. "Carefully, Han. She's badly hurt," replied the one in white. They made a simple carrier from branches and fabric, placing Neri on it with surprising gentleness. As they lifted her, Neri saw lights in the sky. More ships entering the atmosphere. The Drax had followed her. "Something else is coming," said the third human, pointing to the lights. "More like her." "I don't think so, Sang. Look how she's reacting." Neri tried to warn them, tried to explain the danger, but she had no way to communicate. The humans carried her through the forest as night fell, moving quickly but carefully to avoid jostling her injuries. They reached a small building hidden among trees. Inside, the humans created a soft place for Neri to rest and cleaned her wounds with primitive but effective medicine. The one called Jin stayed by her side through the night, monitoring her condition. Despite her fear, Neri began to wonder. These humans hadn't harmed her. They'd helped her. Everything she knew about them suggested they should be violent and cruel, yet their hands were gentle and their eyes showed concern. As she drifted into healing sleep, Neri felt confusion replace her fear. Perhaps the stories about humans weren't complete. Perhaps there was more to these bloodthirsty creatures than the galaxy knew. Tomorrow, if she survived, she would try to understand these strange beings who had saved her when they could have simply killed her instead. Meanwhile, outside, the Drax ships landed in the darkness, their soldiers beginning their search for the escaped luminary researcher and any other useful slaves they might find on this newly discovered world. The sun had not yet risen when Han gathered everyone in the small cabin. 10 humans had joined their group, local people whose friends and family had been taken by the Drax. Their faces showed fear, but also determination. "The Drax ship is here," Han said, pointing to a spot on the rough map. "We know they have at least 20 prisoners inside, both humans and Neri's people." "How do we get in?" asked a young woman whose brother had been captured. Han looked at Neri. "Tell them what you told me." Neri stepped forward. Her blue skin glowed softly in the dim room. "All Drax ships have a maintenance entry near the bottom. It is used for repairs in space. The door has a simple code system. And you know this code?" Someone asked. "I know how it works," Neri said. "Sang has built a device that can find the right code quickly." Sang held up a small box with wires connecting to a piece of Drax technology they had taken from a captured scout. "It will work, I'm sure of it." Han laid out the rest of the plan. They would split into 2 teams once inside. One team would free the prisoners while the other would damage the ship's engines. "We don't want to destroy the ship while people are still inside," Han explained. "Just make sure it can't fly properly." Neri watched the humans prepare with a mix of wonder and worry. Her people would never attempt something like this. The luminary believed all problems could be solved with words and patience, but these humans were willing to risk everything to save their own kind. And hers. "You don't have to come," Jin told her as they packed medical supplies. "You can stay here where it's safe." "No," Neri said. "I know the Drax ship better than any of you. I must help." They moved through the forest before dawn, carefully avoiding Drax patrols. When they reached the ship, Neri saw it was smaller than she expected. A transport vessel rather than a warship. That was good news. It meant fewer Drax soldiers. The maintenance door was exactly where Neri said it would be. Sang connected his device to the control panel while everyone else watched for guards. After tense minutes, the door slid open. "Remember," Han whispered as they entered. "Team 1 goes to the prisoner cells. Team 2 heads for the engine room. 30 minutes, then we all meet back here." Inside, the ship was dark and cold. The walls were made of gray metal with strange markings. Nari led Jin's team toward where she believed the prisoners would be kept. Han and Sang took 4 others toward the engines. They moved silently through narrow corridors, hiding whenever they heard Drax voices or footsteps. Twice they almost ran into patrols, but Nari's sensitive hearing warned them in time. Finally, they reached a heavy door with a small window. Through it, Nari could see people in a large cell, humans sitting or lying on the floor, and 3 luminary whose skin barely glowed anymore. "My people," she whispered, "and yours. But there are 2 guards." Jin looked through the window. "We need to draw them away from the door." Before they could make a plan, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. "That's Han's team," Jin said. "They've been discovered." With the guards distracted by the alarm, Jin's team rushed into the room. They quickly overcame the surprised Drax and began freeing the prisoners. The humans were weak but could walk. The luminary were in worse condition, their light almost gone. Nari went to them, speaking in their language. "Brothers, sisters, we are leaving this place." One looked up with dim eyes. "Nari, we thought you were dead. Come, humans are helping us escape." Humans. The word was spoken with fear. Yes, they are not what we believed. As they helped the prisoners toward the exit, more alarms sounded. A voice spoke in the Drax language over speakers. "They're locking down the ship," Nari translated. "We must hurry." They reached the meeting point just as Han's team arrived, running from pursuing Drax soldiers. Han was carrying Sang, who had been hit by a Drax weapon and could barely move. "Did you plant the devices?" Jin asked as she checked Sang's wound. Han nodded. "Engine room. Set to go off in 5 minutes." They pushed through the maintenance door with the freed prisoners, but outside waited the Drax commander and 6 soldiers, weapons ready. "Surrender now," the commander said through a translation device. "You cannot escape." Han stepped forward, placing himself between the Drax and the others. "Take one more step, and I trigger these explosives early. Your ship goes down with all of us." The Drax commander hesitated. In that moment, Jin threw something that created a bright flash. The Drax, temporarily blinded, fired their weapons wildly. "Run," Han shouted. They ran into the forest as the first explosions rocked the ship behind them. The ground shook as parts of the Drax vessel began to break apart. As they reached safety, Nari looked back at the damaged ship. The Drax would not be able to pursue them or leave Earth with that vessel. For the first time in her life, she had been part of a successful resistance against them. One of the rescued luminary touched her arm. "You fought with humans." "No," Nari said. "I did not fight. But I helped those who could." 1 week after the attack on the Drax ship, Nari stood on a hill watching the damaged vessel. It still rested in the same clearing, but now it had a makeshift tower attached to it. The remaining Drax had repaired enough systems to send a distress signal to their homeworld. "They'll leave soon," Han said, joining her on the hill. "Our satellites show a Drax rescue ship approaching Earth. They should arrive tomorrow." Nari nodded. "They will tell others about your world." "Let them," Han replied. "Next time they'll know humans fight back." The past week had been busy. The freed prisoners, both human and luminary, were recovering. Jin had set up a medical area in the cabin, treating their injuries. Sang, despite his wound, had been working with parts from the crashed escape pod. "I have news," Nari said. "Sang helped me fix my communication device. I sent a message to my people." "What did you tell them?" "The truth, that the stories about humans are wrong. That you saved us when no one else would." They walked back to the cabin together. Inside, the 3 rescued luminaries sat with Jin. Their skin glowed brighter now as they regained their strength. When they saw Nari enter with Han, they looked uncomfortable. "Sister," one named Tomi said in their language, "why do you spend so much time with these violent beings?" Nari sat down across from them. "Because I have learned something important, something all our people need to understand." "What could we possibly learn from humans?" another asked. "That sometimes protection requires action. Our people have always believed that violence in any form is wrong. But these humans fought not because they love fighting, but because they care about protecting life." The luminary looked doubtful. Jin, not understanding their language, simply smiled at them. That evening, Sang called everyone together. He had been monitoring space around Earth. "A ship is entering orbit," he announced. "Not Drax. Different design." Nari's heart beat faster. "Show me." When she saw the image on Sang's screen, her skin glowed brightly with excitement. "It's a luminary diplomatic vessel." My message reached them. The ship landed the next day in a field near the cabin. Earth's governments had been informed and had agreed to this first official contact. When the ship's door opened, 5 luminary emerged, their skin glowing in various colors. The oldest one, with pale green skin, approached Nari. "Researcher Nari, your message caused quite a stir at home." Nari bowed respectfully. "Elder Su, thank you for coming so quickly. How could we not? You claim humans, the species we have avoided for generations, saved you from the Drax. That they fought the raiders and won. No peaceful species has ever managed this." Elder Su looked at the humans standing behind Nari, Jin, Han, Sang, and the others who had helped with the rescue. "Are these the ones?" he asked. "Yes," Nari said. "Without them, I and the other survivors would be Drax slaves now." A formal meeting was arranged for the next day. Representatives from Earth's governments arrived to meet with the luminary elders. Nari served as translator until better devices could be set up. Elder Su addressed the human representatives. "For many years we have watched your planet from afar. We saw your wars, your violence, and decided you were too dangerous for contact. We called you Bloodthirsty. It seems we were wrong." A human leader responded, "We have our flaws. We fight too much, it's true. But we also protect what we value." "So we have seen," Elder Su said. "The Drax have terrorized peaceful worlds for centuries. No diplomatic solution has ever worked with them. Yet in days, you accomplish what we could not in years." As the meeting continued, Nari stood with Jin, Han, and Sang. "What happens now?" Jin asked. "Now our worlds will talk," Nari replied. "My people have much to offer yours. Medical knowledge, clean energy. And perhaps your people can teach mine that sometimes standing firm against evil is necessary." "Will you go back with them?" Han asked. Nari thought for a moment. "I wish to stay, if possible, as the first ambassador from my world to yours. There is much more for me to learn here." Later that day, as the sun set, Nari watched humans and luminary talking together in the field near the diplomatic ship. Two species so different, beginning to understand each other. "I never thought I would see this," she told Jin. "My people meeting with humans as friends. Sometimes good things come from bad situations," Jin replied. In the distance, they could see the Drax rescue ship arriving to collect the survivors and their damaged vessel. The Drax would leave Earth, but they would carry stories about this world and its defenders. "Will they come back?" Jin asked, watching the Drax ships. "Perhaps," Nari said. "But next time, they won't face Earth alone. My people may not fight, but we can help in other ways. And there are other peaceful species who have suffered under the Drax who will stand with you." As darkness fell, the stars appeared overhead. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was changing. Word would spread about the humans, not as bloodthirsty savages, but as protectors who stood against those who preyed on the peaceful. Nari looked at her human friends and felt something new, hope for a different future than the one she had always imagined. one where peace and strength could exist together.